Hi everyone, it's Alix Perez here. We're in my studio doing a little thing for computer music and showing you guys basically a few procedures that I go through when I make music. So hopefully it'll be a nice little insight and it will give you some guys maybe a few tricks, few tips for your own production. I've got a really basic setup here. I've got my really trusty Mackey's HR824s, which I absolutely love. My MacBook Pro and Logic Pro 8 running down there onto the big screen. My little beast, the Virus TI Polar, which I got recently, been using that a lot. When I usually start with drums, depending on what kind of track I'm doing. I mean, if I'm doing something musical, I might base the track around the sample. But here we're gonna go for just maybe beats and bass, just a little rollout. I spent a couple hours before you guys came and just knocked up something quite quick. So I'm going to go through the procedures of that. Here I started with a break. I started with a basic kick, which I've EQ'd. It's a kick that I've pretty much made myself out of an old break, and I've been using it as a kind of standard kick with all my tunes. And here I've just applied a simple EQ. If we look at the EQ, it's quite a flat kick, and I've given a little boost. Before I go any further, anything to do with EQ, I use the channel EQ inside Logic because it's got an analyzer, graphic analyzer, so you can see exactly where your kick's hitting, where it might be lacking. So here I've just added a little bit of bottom and low mids just to get that nice punch. So now that we've got a kick running, we're going to do the snare, although today really it's more of a rim shot or percussion rather than a snare. It's something I actually recorded here. I've got loads of percussion. I basically went down Pro Percussion's place in Camden. If you're looking for percussion, it's really good. They've got a wide range of percussion. I just went down there, spent a couple £100 and just got all kinds of different percussion, which is really useful, to add to your own track basically, because it gives some different dynamics rather than samples. I basically recorded here, which is basically this little bad boy here. So I just recorded that as a rim shot. Originally this was just dry, so it would just be like this. Now with percussion, I like to use reverb a lot, in moderation obviously, because you don't want to put too much reverb because everything starts merging together and it clouds the mix. So if I'm going to use reverb, I'll probably use one out of the two that I use most commonly in Logic, which would be the gold verb here or the platinum verb basically. Here I've got the platinum verb out. Here. So the reverb time is quite short, it's just under 3 seconds, so it's got time to fade out before the other one, so like I said, it doesn't cloud the mix. Right, so here I'm going to keep adding little bits of percussion. Basically here we've added this little one here, which is I guess in some way sonically similar, and what I've done is I've recorded it through the mic again. Got TLM 193 here, condenser mic, which is going straight through into the edge roll, because they are both quite similar if we solo them together. Is I've panned one slightly to the left and one slightly to the right, just to get a bit of stereo imaging going, and so it's kind of got a wider sound. And I've applied the reverb separately on each one. Here I've added some gold verb, which is the other one that I use, which is slightly similar to be honest. And also with my drums, what I will do, especially for the percussion here that I've recorded, is I will bust them all together. Here I've sent them to bus 2 and added a slight EQ basically, so I can just touch up the overall sound of all the percussion together, and then added a slight add limiter to it just to make sure everything hits together. Okay, so now we've got our basic kick and snare, probably kick and rim shot here in this case. Now I want to add a bit of air and maybe a bit of splash on the first rim shot with some more percussion, and I'm going to do that now. I've got my mic plugged in here. I'm going to use a drumstick and a tambourine and basically use it, I guess, as an extra snare layered on top, just to get that kind of top high frequencies through there. So we're going to record that now. So quite simple, you just set up your audio channel here, get some level here, so you know it's hitting at the top but not into the red, so you've got a nice signal. We're just going to record it simply. So I've got a few hits there. That's one take. I'm going to take another one just in case. So that's the recording right there. I don't know if you notice with the percussion as well, you know, the way you hit, you get some different tones in the sound as well. So it's interesting. You can go back and hear, once it's layered, you can really get, you know, different sounds out of it. Now our audio is recorded in, we're just going to play back, see what we've got. See, I personally like the last two here, the way they, you know, they hit with the other two rim shots. Okay, so we've got those there now. And take the volume down a little bit. So it's at the moment it's sounding quite dry obviously, but with a touch of reverb. Here I'm going to use probably the silver verb because it's got a low cut, so you're basically just getting your reverb on the top end, because I want to get that splash and kind of air it out over the rest of the percussion. I'm just going to go in and cut it just to make sure, the audio editor, make sure it hits on point. So yeah, we pretty much got the result I wanted to get, just, you know, nice splash on the first snare. What we could do for a little trick, so you've got yours. What I often do is basically bounce that tambourine snare that I've just recorded in with the reverb. So I'm going to do that now, just export it. I can export that with the effect on it, and then set up a new audio channel. And what I'm going to do is reverse the one that I've exported into the second snare. So you get that suction. You know, so it's like the reverb's fading out but then coming back into itself into the second snare, so you get that really nice movement going. Okay, so now we've got a basic beat going, so I'm quite happy with the sound so far. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm not going for that big 200 Hz snare, I'm going for the more kind of minimal, spacious thing, which I thought I'd do because, you know, something different. So now maybe we could add a shaker, which I think I recorded earlier. Yeah, I've got these here. So a little shaker there. Again, a small amount of reverb going just to tail off. And I mean, the reverb thing really works with these kind of beats because you've got a lot of space between the hits. Obviously, if you're going for something more dance floor, you want things to be quite dry and, you know, to be hitting harder. But here, you know, we're going for this kind of more spaced out sound. Just to show you that you can be really experimental. For example, I just recorded some random stuff in my room, and I recorded basically some gaffer tape basically being pulled on the mic, and the TLM, I mean the 193 picks up a lot of the bottom end, so here you can so basically that's the sound of the gaffer tape being recorded. What I've done is actually cut it up and used it as part of the groove in the beat. You can hear it almost sounds like a kick being reversed, or you know, it's got that kind of sound. So you can hear it sucking into the snare and then out of the kicks, same thing. Then I'm going to EQ it because it's quite bottom heavy. I've put a low cut on the channel EQ once again up to about 115, just to take out that really heavy bottom end out, and then push the tops a little bit. I've got a little peak here from about 500 to 20, just to get that top end, and then again some reverb with the silver reverb, just low cut, just so you get that airiness out of it. And now you can hear it. So yeah, I mean, basically you could do anything, and it's quite fun to do because at least, you know, it's your own sounds, it's original, and it's, you know, different from just the usual sample packs and things like that. So if you can invest in a really good mic, it is actually worth, you know, doing, and it will definitely expand your palette of sounds. So now I've got my beat, you know, I think it's pretty, as a basic beat, it's pretty much there. It's enough, you know, for me to vibe and then move on to different things like Atmos, bass, which we're going to do a little bit. What I like to do often is to add some background noise that is not very prominent, but it just kind of sits, you know, in the back of the mix, and just it adds some kind of atmosphere. Here, it's just the sound really. It's just some static basically. Quite airy, just really high pass, which is just running with the beat. What I've actually done to add some extra groove is I've bussed the kick separately to another bus rather than with all the percussion. Just bus itself just on its own, so I can sidechain that static to the kick. So every time the kick comes in, the static kind of dips in and disappears, and then just pumps out, so it just kind of gets that groove going, which you can hear here, coming in and out. And just a basic drone, which I've played here on the Virus. I keep everything in key, so the keys that I play the drone in will be, you know, will refer to the bass line and so on. So everything's in key. So here we've just got a drone, which is doing the same thing basically, slightly sidechaining, not too much, just so it blends in with the static. Which is the kind of thing, obviously, if you've got a really noisy beat, you know, you're not really going to notice, but with this kind of thing, it really sets the mood, and the drone just kind of adds some eeriness and some kind of character to the tune already. So something really simple. Then playing the same chords again, recorded live on the Virus. I've got just a synth sound just faded in. Into the main break. So, you know, if we say that's kind of an intro, I guess, I mean, this is just like, that's a main 32 and then 16 intro. So just to get some kind of structure going. Okay, so now we've got, I guess, some kind of vibe going on the track, so we're going to move on to bass now. Usually when I've got my breaks and some kind of sounds, this is my next step. I used to use a lot of samples for bass. Now with the virus, I've pretty much make everything myself. So the same thing as the mic, the virus going into 1 and 2, into the sound card, into Logic. And here there is a little bass that I made earlier. So something really quite with a lot of distortion in the mid-range and top end. The reason is for that is because when you low pass something like that, you get a lot of texture and a lot of resonance, you know, which kind of adds a lot of character to the bass, rather than a sub which is, you know, just straight low end. So here, basically, I made the bass on the virus. I've got some distortion going here, just some hard distortion. So what I've done is I've recorded the actual bass sound open, so I can then modify it and put it into the sampler in Logic, and then actually, you know, start modulating in there. So here, this is the EXS24, which is the sampler I use. It's my main sampler basically in Logic, for mainly bass and Rex files and things such as that. So I've recorded the sound in, chopped it up, and then put it into EXS24. If we open the filter and actually go into the sound here, you got your bass there. Obviously it's pitched down. So now with a bit of filtering and a bit of envelope, we can start getting some movement on the bass. If I solo it, so here what I've done is I've got a low pass on the on the cutoff here. What I've done is applied an envelope to the cutoff, so you can apply it to it. So here I wanted to get the start of the actual bass. I wanted to get just like almost like, you know, the stab and the punch really going. So I've just opened up the envelope a little bit here on the decay. Without it, you can hear it's almost like the attack is up. Bring the decay. The further you go, the more it's going to open up. So I've kept it so it just opens up on the very start of the bass, just to get that punch on each hit, which is sitting on the kick. So when I bring the beat in, sitting there. So that's our main groove there. Really simple, but it's got a nice groove to it. Now obviously what you can do is duplicate that and then start using the distortion and mid-range, you know, as a separate bass, but kind of blend it in with the sub. I like to separate it. Not always. I mean, sometimes I really play with the envelope and LFOs and open it up just on the one bass sound. But here I just messed around and basically brought in the second line, which will be that one there, which is the same sound in a different sampler with an LFO rather than an envelope. So you're just getting that mid-range basically. The more you push up, the more the LFO opens. Now as you can hear, there's some effects on there. What I like to do is actually send whichever bass I want to affect, is send it to another bus and put the effects on that bus. So here the mid-range bass is actually going to bus 4 here. So on bus 4, I basically, if I take all the effects off, you still have a lot of bass there. I've just basically brought up a channel EQ again, just to boost the resonance of the bass wherever I want it to be. So if you see here, which you can see on the screenshot, is that it's quite prominent in the low mid range. So I've boosted in the top end here, just to get that crunch at the top. Then I've added some chorus. Again, all these plugins are part of Logic and actually come with Logic and then the basic plugins in there. So just added some chorus to soften it and widen it a little bit. Then onto some reverb, just to get a little tail off on the end. Silver verb again, just so it's like the low cut, and you just basically tailing off just the top end. And that's the result. And then obviously the great thing is now is that because you've bussed your bass, you can automate any effects on that bass. So you could basically change the high pass, keep changing it. So you could get some nice modulation going through your 16 or 32 or however you want to play it. You can increase the reverb, do anything, and it's a slight change, but something that will keep things interesting throughout the track, basically. So I could slowly high pass the bass in. Add some more reverb. So yeah, you get an idea of basically some arrangement there and a bit of automation. Automation is relatively easy. There's two ways of doing it. You can actually write the automation in the automation page here. You just hit A in Logic, your automation comes up, you select your plugin that you want to affect and then draw it in. The way I like to do it is to actually latch it on the channel. So the channel I want to affect is bus 4, where I've got my high pass. So I select that channel, and here on your menu you can select to latch. So anything you do while the track is playing is going to be recorded as automation. So if here in the second 16, now when you play it back, you can see this is replicating exactly what I did. And now you've got that bass high past it. So I guess there we've got a little groove going already. Bass and beats going, a bit of atmos. Maybe I added like a stab earlier straight from the virus. Which you can modulate as well on the filter. Just opens up. Opens up. really simple again, but you know, it keeps the track interesting. And yeah, just to be honest, I mean, it's a matter of getting really good sounds. You know, your source of sounds is really important, that you know that you're going to use from start, because you know you can't polish a turd like everyone says, which is true. I mean, there's only so much you can do. Obviously, you can clean up a break and stuff, but you know, really spend some time and you know try and invest in really getting some strong sounds before you start anything. Now I have a rough intro and then a drop and then a little roll out section here. Obviously, so usually it would be arranged over a longer period of time, but we could do like a little turnaround or something like that here before it goes into the drop. So basically my way of working is to just, like I said recently, it's just I've been using the synth pretty much solely. So I'm just adding as I go along. That's the beauty. You've got, you know, thousands and thousands of sounds. You can just tweak right there, and I just basically jam on top of the tune, and then when I'm happy with the sound, I record it in, and then maybe modulate it like we did earlier. So here I've got another little bass sound, quite growly, which fits in with the rest basically. So we're going to so that's just one version there, and you can just keep recording different ones. So that one was quite open. Record another one. So we've got two variations there. Now the beauty is about making those you know, effect buses earlier. I can just set up a new channel here, drop the bass that I've just recorded in, and I can apply that bus to it just by putting it up on the channel and sending it slightly. So dry, the bass will be like this. Sorry, like this. Now, so add a bit more character. Now obviously you could copy this bus. In Logic it's quite easy to copy the channel strip and then put it on another bus and apply, I guess, the effects slightly different to that bass. So you just got endless variations. So now I've got and that's that. Right, so that was just a little insight into some of the procedures I go through, you know, when I'm making music, and some of the effects I apply, and all very basic, but you know, endless, like I said, endless variations with it. And when you start actually applying your own sound to it, you know, you can really start developing something there. So yeah, you've been watching myself, Alix Perez, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's going to help your own productions, and good luck.